Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Alivo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. And today's program also brought to you in part by the United Soybean Board, your soybean checkoff working for you. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Under clear skies, 58 degrees on the barn thermometer this morning. A thank you to everyone that came out yesterday to the Farm Science Review and Dale's Ice Cream Social to congratulate him for all his years of broadcasting and telling Ohio agriculture's story. Powered by Soy Biodiesel, we have a couple calendar reminders for you. You can visit Ag Revolution on Lot 513 at the Farm Science Review to see exciting new products from AGCO and come out and see Dale broadcasting the midday broadcast today from the Fint exhibit. That's Lot 513. Of course, anytime you're at the review, be sure to stop by Wilmington College's booth at the review. That is in the same building as the Ohio AgNet and Ohio's Country Journal, the corner of Corn and Market Street. They're going to be here all week long. Learn how Wilmington College's ag program is built for purpose. And tune in on Friday as Dale's going to be back on the county fair circuit. He will be traveling to the Ashland County Fair that runs September 14th through the 20th. Sponsors for our broadcast on Friday are Centera Co-op and Wellington Implement. Visit ashlandcountyfair.com for a full schedule. I'm joined this morning by Julia Brown. Julia, we are at Farm Science Review and some exciting things going on with the Ohio Soybean Council, talking about soy foam right now, and some really neat demonstrations are going to happen every day of the review down by Gate C. Tell us more.
Yeah, so every day at 1 o'clock, just inside Gate C, we're going to be doing a demonstration of this new soy foam, firefighting foam, developed by your soybean checkoff dollars. So you can come down, see how well it works, see how it maybe compares to the traditional firefighting foam you've seen before, and just check out this new way that we're trying to expand soybean markets for our farmers.
Very good. So for those not familiar with what the actual gate numbers are and things, as you come in from the east side of the review, as most people do with parking, walking through the small plots, that will take you right by the display. Or if you're heading back out, again, at 1 o'clock. Julia, some really neat opportunities here because this soy foam isn't only creating demand for soybean farmers, it's much safer and healthier for our fighter fighters.
Yeah, so traditional firefighting foam contains forever chemicals, otherwise known as PFAS. Those are not good for people's health. They can cause all kinds of health problems. So by replacing the PFAS, replacing the traditional foam with soy flour, we're actually able to make it safer for the firefighters using it, but also safer, in the aftermath of a fire to clean up and maybe help preserve some of the structure that might have been burned.
Well, that's a big one, I have to think, for soybean farmers because it's using more of their product, it's safer for the environment, and it looks good to the general public that there's something positive coming out of the work of soybean farmers and the council and checkoff.
Yeah, I think there's a really good story to be told here to the public. And we're also really proud of this product because we know that a lot of farmers also volunteer as firefighters, so they're able to use their own product, keep themselves safer, and also just show off to the public what a diverse and useful product soybeans really are.
Again, my guest today is Julia Brown with the Ohio Soybean Council. We are at Farm Science Review. Let's take a look at your Wednesday morning weather forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
Dry, warm weather here as we move through the rest of this week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at that Ohio Ag Weather Update. Day 1 of the Farm Science Review under our belt. Day 2 and 3, warmer over the region. Lots of sunshine. Make sure you take a wide-brimmed hat if you're heading to FSR or some sunscreen. You don't need an umbrella, at least for rain. It's just not going to be anywhere close. I'm looking for a dry weather pattern here to continue on into the weekend. I think on Sunday we might have to leave the door open midday and afternoon for a few hit and miss scattered showers, no more than 30% coverage. There is some instability that lingers then Monday afternoon into early Tuesday. I think we can see another few hundreds to a few tenths, but maybe 40% coverage there. All done with precipitation threat by midweek next week, Wednesday the 24th. Thursday the 25th, Friday the 26th, all looking dry. I think we stay dry for most of the weekend of the 27th and 28th, although I'm going to say keep an eye out for a few hit and miss scattered showers early Saturday morning in northwest Ohio. We're looking at now our next good front, a strong cold front trying to sweep through overnight the 28th into Monday the 29th. Doesn't have a lot of moisture with it, anywhere from a tenth to half an inch. That could end up with 80 to 90% coverage, but behind the front we are cooler and we kick off a very dry pattern, not just for Ohio, but for a large majority of the continental United States. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Biodiesel isn't just a fuel, it's a game changer for your engine, your wallet, and your farm. Cleaner burning and efficient, biodiesel enhances engine life, power, and fuel economy. Plus, it delivers real value, adding $1.33 to every bushel of soybeans grown. That's 13% more value per bushel, directly tied to the biofuels market. Ready to turn soybeans into power and drive with purpose? Learn how at soyohio.org.
Get ready for the 63rd Annual Farm Science Review, September 16th through the 18th near London, Ohio. Explore hundreds of exhibits, field demonstrations, and educational sessions. Get pre-sale discounted tickets at participating OSU Extension offices, agribusinesses, or online at fsr.osu.edu. Plan your trip with the digital directory and mobile app, and follow Farm Science Review on social media. Don't miss the 63rd Farm Science Review, September 16th through the 18th.
I am joined today by Bob Siegel and Rudy Pizzaperi. Bob is Regional Vice President for Agricultural Lending for Farm Credit Mid-America in East Central Ohio. Rudy is the Regional Vice President for Ag Lending in the South Central region here in Ohio, which includes London. Folks, thanks so much for coming out today. We are at Farm Science Review. A great crowd, a beautiful day. Unfortunately, maybe things in the ag economy aren't quite as beautiful as the weather is right now. Everybody knows that, input prices are still high, but our commodity prices have not followed suit. Curious, as you're having conversations with the Farm Credit Mid-America team members, how are you talking to them about visiting with the borrower members, creating different strategies to try and mitigate this situation?
Well, Dusty, we talk to our teams a lot about the key to this is communication, right? So talk to your customers early, talk to them often. We've talked to a lot of people pre-harvest to kind of just get their temperature, see where they're at. Not everybody is in dire straits, but some people are definitely stressed. And so what can we do from an advice perspective or coaching perspective to help them through that? Is there anything we see in their financials to be able to help them through that? But the biggest key to all of it is really communication. If we don't talk to a customer until they're in very tight position, it can be harder to come up with solutions. And so we're trying to be very proactive about that on our end, and driving some of those conversations so that we can help hopefully give them some peace of mind and some different options.
Dusty, good to connect with you here at the Farm Science Review. I would absolutely echo Rudy's comments. I think early proactive communication is key in really any scenario, good times as well as those with challenging times as well. Our customers aren't in this alone. We stand beside them. We're prepared for challenging conversations and for tighter margins and economic stress. So again, communication is key for the near future as well.
It's important as we look at marketing plans. A lot of folks like to run projections and different scenarios. How important is it in times like this that's not just a once-a-year type thing, but it's done as we go through the season and we see, different things. Rudy, you mentioned before we came on the air, on top of the economic hardships, we decided to throw in a drought for good measure.
Yeah, we in the last 12 months, we thought it'd be fun to go through a drought, a flood, and another drought. So, just to keep things mixed up from a weather perspective. Knowing your numbers is one of the most crucial parts of being able to manage through times with tight margins. A lot of people do like to run projections. I'm always surprised, though, by the amount of people who don't really understand their own personal farms break-evens, and that's essential to be able to know that. And to tweak it, as you said, it's not a static kind of thing, so tweak it throughout the year based on conditions as it looks like your crop yield, like you start to project different crop yields and or incur different expenses or maybe some savings so that you have a real idea of what you're going to look like at the end of the year.
And part of that strategy includes having a trusted team of advisors, which would include your financial officer or your lender, at the table to help you understand your cost of production. I think it's also important in terms of being very judicious with expenses in tighter times and keeping just a close eye on where your margins are at.
And I'd always encourage people to find your financial officer, right? If you've got another financial advisor or a tax accountant, and also your crop insurance agent, and really understand what your guarantees are, what that looks like for you, so you have an idea from a revenue protection side of things as well.
We've got a lot of farmers out there, some that have been through the challenging times back in the 80s and as we, got into the 90s, and we've had those ups and downs. But there's a lot of farmers out there right now, young men and women, that have not seen these challenging times. times, and that's where I would think some of your team members that are more seasoned and have perspective can really be a service.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There are a lot of farmers who haven't been through these times, and they only know their own farm, right? That's the other benefit. Your financial officer, when they work with a lot of different farms like ours do, have the benefit of being able to give you advice and insight from across the region, and they've seen a lot of different things, maybe a lot of different ideas to help combat different things. So just the breadth of their knowledge is helpful from that standpoint as well.
Absolutely echo that sentiment. Keep in mind, not every operation is the same, and so what is challenging for one operation may not necessarily be challenging for another. So again, have that trusted team of advisors, leverage your financial officer for knowledge, and be proactive with communication in times of challenges.
Yeah, and I echo, Bob made a great point. I talk to people a lot of times that maybe you're doing something because their neighbor did it and told them about it, or their brother or somebody else, but to Bob's point, not every operation is unique. People have different cost structures and different strengths and weaknesses, so I would definitely encourage them to lean in and think critically about what will work for their specific operation, not do things just because that worked for somebody else.
Again, my guests today have been Bob Siegel. He is the Regional Vice President for Ag Lending for Farm Credit Mid-America in East Central Ohio, and Rudy Pitzer-Perry. She's the Vice President for Ag Lending in South Central Ohio, and right here in London as we are at the Farm Science Review. Folks, thanks so much for coming out today.
Thank you, Dusty.
Thank you for having us.
Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals. Your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
It's time now for today's market analysis, brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC.
Grain markets finished higher in Turnaround Tuesday action yesterday. We take a look back at it here as we are setting up for day 2 at the Farm Science Review, London, Ohio. Hopefully, day number 2 will lead to another day of green on the screen. However, we closed off of the highs. It was an interesting day yesterday. December corn pushed back into the chart gap up at around 430 to 433. On the soybean side of things, the SRE reallocation announcement from EPA took top billing, especially as we went through midday and early afternoon. As with all things government and EPA, though, the actual announcement came out to be much more of a whimper. Basically, the announcement yesterday out of EPA is they are pushing 2 different kind of reallocation thought processes, a 100% allocation or a 50% allocation. And then they said, we're going to open up a comment period. We want comments on these. Well, that does nothing. When the focal point on the announcement really started to ramp up, bean oil jumped nicely, but then after the announcement was done and you saw and had a kind of a, that's it, afterwards, the market then kind of pulled back. Still strong on the day, still green, but definitely not seeing as much strength as what we saw with the anticipation of the announcement. As we move into the corn side of things, December corn, again, tested that open gap level that sits between 430 and 433. That gap came in early July. There is the expectation for lower corn and soybean yields in October, but I still think the numbers are going to be huge. Brokers estimate that the managed money funds purchased 8,400 contracts of corn yesterday, 4,100 contracts of beans, 3,400 contracts of wheat. In the products, there was a purchase of 4,300 contracts of soy oil. Net selling, though, about 1,800 contracts of soy meal. The 25-26 EU wheat export program is, quote, woefully slow. Tepid Black Sea and EU wheat exports has the industry raising questions as to the WASDE forecast for the coming year. Trust me, last Friday's WASDE report offered up a lot of questions. First of all, what is USDA smoking? I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look at how your markets closed yesterday, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. December corn closed up 6 1/4 cents per bushel at $4.29.5, and March corn closed up 6 cents a bushel at $4.47. November soybeans closed up 7 cents higher, $10.49 3/4 cents, while January soybeans were up 7 1/2 cents at $10.69 1/4. December Kansas City wheat closed up 9 1/2 cents at $5.23 1/2. December Chicago wheat was up 9 cents at $5.34, and December Minneapolis wheat closed 4 3/4 cents higher, $5.76. In the overnight trade, the markets are all trading lower, with December corn down 3/4 penny at $4.28 3/4 cents. November soybeans down 3 1/2 cents at $10.46 1/4, and wheat for December trading 3/4 penny lower, $5.33 1/4 cents. This is the Ohio AgNet.